I left a 16-year career and I was making a six-figure salary. And the first year in my business, I generated six figures in revenue because my mindset knew how to do that. I had a goal, like many entrepreneurs do, is I wanted to have $1 million business and to create that seven figure. There was something about that $1 million number that just felt really special. And I knew that my mindset was not a match to seven figures. How did I know that? Because I'd never created that result before. And so I did the inner work as well as the external work to be able to do that. The inner work looks like, first of all, creating that vision. What does a seven-figure business look like? What kind of team do they have around them? What kind of impact they're making? And really looking at what's the embodiment of a seven-figure business owner and really learning to live from that. So that's one of the internal work pieces that's really, really important. And then, of course, there's the strategy and there's the work, right? That doesn't just happen to you. Jim Carrey has a great line when he was asked about visualization and how much visualization works. And he said, yeah, but you can't just visualize and then go sit on the couch and eat a sandwich. And I love that expression because it's a good reflection in my own life. Where do I have a goal, but I'm actually sitting on the couch and eating a sandwich? I'm not doing the work and taking the action required. And I see this a lot with people. Some people really thrive in creating the vision. They know exactly where they want to go. But the action, they're procrastinating, they're overwhelmed, they're not stepping outside of their comfort zone. And then there's other people who are really good at the action, but they tend to be in hustle energy and go, go, go. And they're not doing the mindset work. They're not doing the visualization. They're not doing the inner work. It's when we match the mindset and the strategy, the mindset and the action, that's how we move energy on our vision. So that internal work for me was, how does a seven-figure business owner wake up in the morning? What does she do? What is she thinking? How does she show up to events? And really embodying that. I remember being at the mall one day and I'm just shopping and I'm looking, walking around, and all of a sudden I had the thought, Stacey, how does $1 million earner walk through the mall? Nothing changed in my outer world, but in that moment, there was like this confidence that came over me. And just the way I walked through the mall was different. So ask yourself, are you behaving like a seven-figure business owner? And really embodying that. And then the action, the strategy, there's things that you need to do to be marketing yourself and selling yourself and managing your finances. Lots of business strategy there. The other action is in the daily habits. There's been days where I'm like, I don't feel like doing my journaling today. I don't feel like that, or I'm really busy, I'm not going to do that. And I've trained myself to notice where it's like, no, Stacey, the reason you're where you are is because you do that morning practice every day consistently. And so having those consistent habits every day, even though you don't see the result of them right away, it's the consistency and the persistence of those that adds up to create big transformation. I looked at a seven-figure earner. Okay, what is that a month? Breaking down that number. And at first it was like, okay, what is somebody who's generating $10,000 a month? How does she show up? And when I hit that number, okay, how does the woman who's generating $20,000 a month show up? And I lived into that before I ever saw the results. And so embodying the version of you that you want to be. And over time, the needle started to move and we started to build the team and we started to help more clients and we were generating more revenue and doubling our income and doing that again. And one day I'm looking at my financial statements, I'm looking at my revenue and I go, we made seven figures. And it kind of happened and went by and I hadn't even noticed it. And that was such a profound moment to me because before that moment, I would have said, oh, when I hit seven figures, I'm going to have it all figured out. I'm going to feel so successful and like I've arrived. It was this feeling like my whole world is going to change. And that day when I realized that we had hit seven figures, nothing had changed. I was still the same person. I still had clients to serve. I still had to, be with my kids, and my day-to-day world hadn't changed. And that was such a profound moment. Bob Proctor, he said, goals aren't for getting, goals are for growing. It was never about having $1 million business. After I accomplished that, I realized it. It was all of the internal growth. It was the who I had to become in order to achieve that goal. And guess what? On the other side of $1 million, there was new problems, there was new challenges, there was new goals, there was new desires, and there's now a new gap in between where I am and where I want to go. And so that process never ends. And if I could say something to my younger self around this, it would be just, your world's not going to change. It's not about the money. It's not about achieving that goal. But set the goal for the process and for the growth that you're going to achieve in accomplishing that. One of the best ways to embody that version of you in accomplishment of that goal is a powerful morning routine, really setting yourself up with a structure every day to help you embody that. And that for me is in a strong journaling practice. And so many people always ask me, like, what's that one thing I can do? Or I'm not a journaler, or how do I journal? And so we've created this free resource. It's a daily journaling guide that really puts you through a framework and a structure to help you embody that feeling of you inside of your vision. So download that, use that as a resource, and remember, doing that once in a while isn't going to produce results. It's the consistency and persistence of that really installs that new way of thinking and being. So get started, and if you miss a day, you start again. But it's the consistency of that will create the transformation. So having the goal is great. It gives us something to aspire to. I think that is such an important thing. I wouldn't have had all of the growth without that goal. But it was the growth that was really the true accomplishment and the thing that I'm most proud of. So if you're a 7-figure business, if you're an 8-figure business, if you've got goals of even being bigger, remember, it's not about the destination. It really is, as cliche as it sounds, it really is about the journey. So what's your goal? What are you aspiring to? Start living from that place now. How does that version of you, how do they wake up in the morning? What habits are they embodying? How are they showing up to their lives? And do the visualization, do that mindset work, and also remember to be in action. And it's not about the destination, so finding the joy now, finding the feeling of success now, and that's what's going to make that journey even more sweet. I'm Stacey Berger, transformational coach in life and business, and here is to you living a life that you love.